Hello and welcome to the fifth annual Black Women in Media Conference and Awards. I'm your moderator, Oni Higgins, and you are here at the TV and film panel. I have two amazing women in the television and film industry who are joining me virtually this year. First up is Okima T. Moore, and she's an actress, producer, writer, and director who started as a child actor on Sesame Street. And since then, she's been occasionally on-air personality for New York's WBLS and even secured an Emmy nomination. And also joining us is Jordana Hemingway, and she's a segment producer for The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and her career in television spans nearly a decade, ranging from conflict talk to daytime. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you
for having us.
Of course. So, a theme for this year is pivot here at the conference and awards. And, through this pandemic and through, quarantine, we've all had to pivot and change the way that we do things on a daily. So, and what are some ways that you ladies have pivoted within your career, within your daily lives? I'll start with you, Jordana.
Wow, I think if coronavirus taught us anything, it's definitely how to pivot, right? I was just saying this, I wanted to tweet this about pray for your friends who work in TV. Either some people lost their jobs or they had to produce shows via Zoom. And as you guys are planning this, it's not easy. So I think for sure for me, as you mentioned, my career started off with conflict, right? And I was a coordinating producer for about 8 years. And there's something that when you're not happy, right? When you kind of just like going over and over, you just keep doing the same thing and you're like, okay, well, what's next? So for me, I made sure I was like, I cannot do another year of this, even though I have a cushy job in television. It's really hard to find a secure job, right? So I was like, I don't want to leave, but I'm just going to go out for it and just bet on myself. And I quit. Like I quit a job that was paying good money, great. It was nice, but I wasn't happy. And I quit, and then I was like, okay, what's next? And I think for a lot of people get scared to make that jump, to make that pivot. But I always say that hard part was actually what set me up to where I'm at now. Because from there, I did a little bit of reality, and then I did daytime again, but I worked for the Tamron Hall show. And then now, so I think if you don't have that strength to quit or take the new job or try a little something different, it kind of hinders you from growing. So I'm all about the pivot. My mom says I pivot a little bit too much, but I'm always like, well, you know what? Let me try something new. So I definitely think coronavirus too taught me, okay, well, how are you producing? How are you booking? How are you interviewing guests via Zoom? So everybody overall this year had to do major pivots in television, as from what I could see.
Nice, yeah. No, for sure. And what about you, Okima?
So it's crazy. I'm a multi-hyphenate. At the time that Corona hit, I was on tour with a musical, and then Broadway shut down. So we had to shut down. And I was like, okay, now what? And then I got a call from PBS American Masters to be the production manager, line producer, and post-production supervisor for their series Unladylike. It's a docuseries highlighting 26 women, unsung women in American history. And so literally when I stepped onto that project, we were like 4 months out from the first delivery, and everything had shut down. The archival houses were kind of shut down. Thank God for digital and technology, right? Because when I started in all this, on this end, on the producing end, it was like 2007. None of this existed. There was no Zoom. There was no FaceTime, like for like big time things. There was no Google Hangout. There was none of this. So, I'm always like, I'm zoomed out, but at the same time, I'm like, good God. Like if this had happened in 05 or 09 or even 12, we would have been really stuck, right? But I worked on Unladylike. I was really, really afraid to take that project because it really had me in a showrunner kind of position, plus over post, plus, looking over a team of about 30 people in like 2-3 different continents, different time zones. Like it was madness. And I had never done anything that archival heavy. And out of our large group, I was the only like there was the executive producer, co-creator who was Black, a Black woman, Sandy Ratley, who's incredible, a big sister, a mentor. And then I was like next in command. And out of the rest of the people, 30 something people, 6 were Black. And out of those 6, I hired 5 of them. So it was like, okay, I have to be in charge and the Black girl in the midst of all of this upset and turmoil and racial turnover and all these things, and get 26 episodes out in the next 6 months. And I ain't never done this before in this way. All right. So yeah, Pivot was like my middle name for the entire summer, but we did it, and that was amazing. And then right after that, I got on another doc where I actually wound up having to go on the road. I was producing and directing that. And again, this was scary for me because the main director, you know, Emmy winner, Oscar nominee, and I'm like, wait, you gonna have me? Oh, all right. So yet again, I'm stepping into something I've never done because the opportunity presented itself. And, you know, I envy Jordana because she is in something that's fairly stable. Whereas for me, I'm a freelancer. I think 2021, I'm looking to potentially go in-house. That may be my new pivot. I've never been in-house. I've always kind of been the captain of my own ship because I still act and I still write and I still, you know, freelance direct, commercial and branded. But I really want to get into show running consistently. I really want to get into more directing and potentially more into the narrative space. So I have a billion pivots waiting to happen, I guess. But it's people like you all and all of the wonderful women that you guys for Black women in media are celebrating and showing off that remind me that I can do it. Because I'm usually, you know, one of the older women on the jobs that I take. My bosses are always 10, 15 years my junior. I started very late in production. I left a corporate job to be, you know, I left 6 figures and a bonus on Wall Street to be a 36-year-old PA at $10 an hour. And that was almost 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And so at going on, you know, I'm a month away from 42, and I'm like, I'm late to the party, but I'm gonna dance. Let's go.
Listen, Black do not crack, right? So, you know, as Black women, a lot of time in this industry, we're often looked upon for opportunities. We got to work 10 times harder just to get one small step up. Like with me, for example, I was a production assistant for maybe 2 years while like white counterparts were just getting on air, like right after graduating college. So talk to me on your thoughts on that. What are some obstacles that you had to triumph over within your careers to get where you are now?
Yeah, I could definitely speak to that. I've definitely been looked over a couple of times as a production assistant, as an AP, and I was doing the work. I was doing the work way better than, you know, my superiors. And it got to a point where I realized, let me just speak up, you know, closed mouths don't get fed, right? What's the worst that could happen? You tell me no, and I will say, hey, well, how can I get to where you're at? You know, like my friends always joke, like I'm the queen of informationals, because if I don't know something, I'm going to ask for advice or what can I do better? And I don't see why a manager wouldn't like that, right? Because show me the ropes. And then if you tell me just straight up, no, horrible, then I need to make the decision to leave that place. Then it's on me. But I can't sit here and complain about everybody else and where they're at, because it's not fair and it's not conducive. And if I have a conversation with a boss or whatever, I'm gonna make sure to speak up and be like, hey, well, listen, I did this amount of book shows, I did this amount for sweeps, this amount of hits went to digital. And what does that get me, you know? So I think before I used to be very timid about asking for raises and about asking for shots at producing. And then I realized it was only hurting myself. So I always try to speak up. I always try to ask for advice. Because I mean, I don't know about you all, but like for me, I'm born in Haiti. So I was the first one to go to college. I looked at some of my white counterparts. They got jobs just because they knew someone who knew someone. My mom and my dad they didn't know anybody in TV per se, so I just had to figure it out on my own. And that's why I just started always asking questions. And it is frustrating when you realize that you're way more qualified. And I was like, okay, I can't be frustrated all the time, so I need to speak up. And I think me speaking up kind of got me to where I'm at now, because I don't have any fear. I will go into EP's office, I will go into whoever, and I'm like, hey, listen, this is my worth. This is what I think I deserve. So what's up? Like, I would always leave it in their hands a little bit, right? Where do we go from here? Because this is my worth, and are you going to pay me? And if you're not, I'll figure out. I'm starting floating my resume around, because I kind of know my self-worth. But I wasn't always that confident. It took me a while to get that confident, and I think that comes with just a lot of experience. I think you have to go through the crappy parts of life a little bit. As you mentioned, leaving a 6-figure job, because that was bravery, right? Going out and trusting yourself a little bit. That's the major part. I think especially in TV, as Black women, there's not that many of us. I know right now with social media, and on Instagram, it looks like there's a lot of us, but there isn't. Luckily for me right now, the Daily Show is very diverse. I mean, so far I love it. Granted, I started virtually, so I haven't technically really been in a room with my new colleagues, but it's a very diverse staff. But it wasn't always like that at the places I worked. And I've been the only Black person. I've been the only Black woman. And you have to realize, okay, I have to speak up, because if I don't, what happens to the next Black PA? So I think that's what's most important.
No, I totally agree. I mean, for me, when I came in, I had already been making my own stuff, producing other independent stuff. But I mean, like indie. Like my mama was crafty indie, like that kind of independent shorts and those kind of things. So network didn't care that I had already directed my own film, I didn't have network credit. So I had to start at the bottom. And when I started as a PA, I was on a studio film. It was my first studio set. So I knew how to be proactive. I knew but I didn't really know set etiquette. And there were I was one of the only Black female PAs. I was the oldest PA. And there were a lot of young Black men who never helped me. They watched me fail and waited for me to fall on my face. The difference is between me and them, I still maintained my decorum. I was still always kind, and I still was going to get things. Nobody had to ask me for anything. I had come from corporate America in the C-suite space. So I knew how to preempt things. If I can produce a $1 billion CEO's day, I can produce a show. I can produce that. So for me, by the time, I was 3-4 weeks into that gig, the AD would not take the shot if I was not standing there. Where's a And people were mad. They were big mad. I didn't care. You know what I mean? Because they didn't help me. And literally 6 months after that gig, I was a coordinator on something else, and I hired half of those men. Why? Because they were good. But before I hired them, we had a nice conversation about how you will never see another sister or brother, especially a Black woman, flailing and not help her. And the only reason that I'm hiring you is because I'm trusting that on my set, you're not going to do that. And they didn't. And some of them I'm still super close to now because I spoke up. Like you said, speaking up. And for me, as a freelancer, I had to make people know my worth. But, everybody believes in what they believe in, but I believe in God, Jesus, bled, died, rose again, all those good things. And so for me, my God continues to show me who he is, because 3 years ago, I was the office PA at Oprah's Masterclass, and I was making, a whopping less than $800 a week. But after I came in, I showed what I could do. Not even a month later, I got promoted to coordinator for the show. But my boss, my direct report rather, was 13 years my junior. And while she was good and adamant in being active, she didn't know nothing. So I wound up half the time, because most of the masters were Black that season. I worked on the last season. So it was LL, it was, and she just didn't know how to source stuff. And because I'm older, she's like, I can't find any pictures of LL. I'm like, well, Black beat, right on. But that's my era, right? So I was able to make myself indispensable. So I think when those obstacles come, whatever they are, it's about you really understanding that you have to find a way to make yourself indispensable to the project. And it's not ego space. It's from I need this. I know that I'm bigger than this role, but this is where the universe has me now. So I'm going to maximize this and do the next thing before they ask me for it so they can give me this opportunity. So 3 years later, 3 years ago, I was a PA in the office and running the set when we were shooting. 3 years later, for what I was making a week, I'm making a day as a producer director on something else for that same network. So, it really is about you, like you said, standing up and saying, look, I'm worth this, I'm worth that. And then also just really not boxing yourself in. When I started as a multi-hyphenate in the early 2000s, I had so many Black men and even a lot of Black women telling me, you have to pick one. Had I picked one when Broadway shut down back in March, I'd have been broke and bitter this entire pandemic. But I wasn't. I was able to say, well, I can't perform. I can't sing. I can't dance. I can't act right now because the stage is gone. All right, well, now I'm going to work behind the scenes and we're going to do that. And I was able to kind of keep going. And then I'm almost finished my feature now because I took my time while I was behind the scenes to write as well. And so it's all those things, you know what I mean? You really have to understand that the obstacles are going to come. It's up to you to decide what you're going to do about them. Are you going to make them a hurdle or a wall? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can scale both, but it's easier to jump over than it is to scale a wall. Figure it out.
For sure. And, you mentioned like knowing the job of everyone, knowing how to write. Oh, I'm sorry, Jordana, are you speaking? She's breaking up a little bit. But,
there we
go. Man. But, as you mentioned, knowing the job of everyone, within the industry, knowing how to write, knowing how to produce, knowing how to be that on-air talent, or maybe, in the control room or such. So just speak to me on, a lot of ladies here probably want to know, how do they get started in the TV and film industry? What's some pieces, if you had 3 pieces of advice for people who wanted to get into this industry, what would that be? I'll start with you, Jordana.
This is something I'm so passionate about. When I graduated, it was like right after the recession, right? So I did everything right my entire life, and I couldn't find a job after college, and it was very frustrating. And what I started to realize is that, listen, I could just complain or I could slide in people's DMs. And this is Facebook when it was just early Facebook. So it wasn't how it is easy now, but people up that if I saw anybody that kind of looked like they worked in television, to reach out to them via Instagram, via Facebook, and say, hey, I just need an opportunity. I just need an interview. Let me at least have an interview, shadow. Let me at least do something. And it does come at a cost. You are going to be paid less. But what I would always make sure is that when I'm on that project, I really work hard, because in television, I'm realizing it's all about who you know, and it's all about your name, what you bring to that. Because for example, when I was in conflict, I worked for a Steve Wilkos show. I was a coordinating producer. I had to take a demotion at one point because I didn't have any other real experience. But I realized I just need to get in there. I need opportunity. I was an associate producer, and then that was like eating humble pie, right? A little bit, because I'm older. I was a little bit frustrated at it. I ended up being a producer for the Steve Harvey show. And it's because I worked so hard and I made sure to really be passionate about my craft that people decided to put me on different projects. So I think it's about asking for the opportunity. There's nothing wrong sending people LinkedIn messages, sending people Instagram messages, and always ask for informational, because I think the informationals for me have been really, really helpful. So for sure, I think those are the tips I would give to somebody.
Nice. And what about you, Okima?
For me, I would say, so many people are going to tell you no. Don't let one of those people be you, right? Like, there's so many times where you want to go for something and you're like, well, I don't have all of the attributes. It's like dating, honey. 80-20. If you got 80% of it, I'm quite sure that if you show up and show out in that interview or that informational, they will forgive the 20% you don't have. And then you just situate yourself so that your learning curve is a lot less steep than others. So really don't ever tell yourself no. The caveat to that is if you don't have any of the skill set and you don't have an in personally, don't go for it. Because the one thing that I'm sure Jordana can attest to is people will apply for things that they have no business applying for. Like there's no synergy at all. And now you just look thirsty for something that you haven't earned. There's enough of us that have to combat what we've earned in this thing than to try and slide in a space that we have yet to earn, unless someone has provided the opportunity for us, knowing that we're not there yet and giving us that grace. It exists, but it's not commonplace. The other thing I would say is once you're in a situation, if you are able to then bless another person with an opportunity, caveat to that, make sure you're not putting people on just because they're your people. Vet them. Because you only have your reputation. And if you're known for giving people whack people, then you're whack, even if you're not. So please get your referrals. However, I work on a lot of big white shows so that I can brown up the town, honey. Because if you hire me as your PM or you hire me as your producer, please understand that every Black and brown person I know that's worth their salt is going to wind up in there with me. And you're going to have to deal with it because I'm going to bring people that are so above board that the only thing you're going to have to say is, wow, I didn't know there were this many qualified and decorated Black people that could do this, right? So you know what I mean? Please make sure that you are lifting while you climb because you never know where that PA that you hire is going to land. This industry doesn't have really a straight path to anything. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's, ending space is different or middle space is different. So you don't know where somebody's going to be. You don't know who they know. You don't know how quickly they learn and can excel. So you got to be the last piece of advice of the 3 things I would say, be kind. So many of us are subjected to ugly, unfortunate people. And I'm not talking about visibility, right? Visuals. I'm talking about just energy and like the way that a lot of people that do wise quickly don't have management skills and they don't have personnel skills and they're not great at managing other people. They're not great at articulating their needs. They're not great at really kind of bolstering you as you're trying to do your work, right? But they're above you. And so sometimes you're going to deal with monsters. But the problem is when you deal with monsters and then you get some agency, it's very easy to become the monster you hate. Been there. I had a situation where I was not good at running people. And it was only because I had people that loved me and knew my heart that pulled my coattail and was like, sis, this ain't it. And after I cried for a couple of days because I thought I was doing great, I then got myself together. And now I lead with love intentionally. Even when people, trust me, I had one person this last project, I promise you I wanted to punch her right in her throat through the computer. But I couldn't do that, right? So I had to lead with love, even though inside of me, everything was like, ma'am. But you have to, because in leadership, if you're doing it properly, being the boss is not synonymous with being bossy. Being a leader is synonymous with being a servant. And if you cannot serve your team and lead with love, even when they piss you off and drop a ball, you cannot do your job in this business, whether it's film or television. Because honestly, when I'm in charge, I don't care how it happened. I don't even care what happened. What's the solution? So take that finger that you're using to point to whomever and blame whomever, turn it back around. And now the person you're pointing to, give me a fix. That's all I care about. We can talk about the details and debrief and all that other stuff later. How do we fix it? Because what happened already. I can't turn that back. How do we fix it? And like yesterday, because 9 times out of 10, whatever happened is costing me time and it's costing the project money. So just really be kind, lift while you climb, and make sure that you're going for it and never telling yourself no, but being honest about what is real for you and what is not.
And to compound on that, I think, I've definitely been the girl who applied for a job that I probably shouldn't have, right? So it's about levels to it. Mm-hmm. I had no late night experience. I had nothing like that at all, but I knew I wanted to work at The Daily Show. I thought it was awesome. And I think with women, we have so much power when we work together. So I met a woman and I'm like, at a networking thing, I'm like, I really like politics. And I really am funny. And I don't know where that could get me, but I think I would be great at The Daily Show. And she was like, you know what? Absolutely. And within a couple of emails, I get it informational. at the Daily Show. And you can imagine me, little old, nothing really. That's how I felt. And, you're going there. And I remember just me going to this informational saying, listen, I know I might not be the best fit, but I just want to learn. I just want to, anything. And that whole job process to get where I'm at now was over a year. It was a year of interviewing, of following up on email, hey girl, hey, how's it going?
You see what you said? You told that you were honest. People apply for things that they're not qualified for, and instead of saying this is an aspiration and I have the skill set to learn this quickly and execute, I just need to learn the format.
Exactly.
They pretend like they know what they're doing, and then they go in there and fail backward instead of failing forward. And now all of us, and now if it's a space where we're not consistently occupied, the next little brown girl that comes behind them is screwed.
Exactly. You kind of have to make sure you're honest. You never want to lie on your resume. I have people who lie on their resume and they're not really experienced, or they say they know people, but they really don't, or whatever. You never want to oversell yourself. You just want to be honest. You want to be passionate. I think within each project that I've worked on, everybody can't say like, I'm not passionate. I'm passionate about, it could be a 2-minute commercial, or it could be, a real big project. I think once you have your name and you have that passion, it's nothing wrong with asking for informationals. And I think reaching out to different women, especially women of color. I mean, I think we try to put ourselves in boxes like, okay, well, I'm not good enough for this, or I'm not, just ask to learn. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've learned in the past couple of years, because there's definitely been time where I failed. There's definitely been times where I felt, down on myself, like, okay, why me? Why am I not good enough? And you start seeing other people getting paid more or having different titles, and you have like this weird, not jealousy, but just like, you doubt yourself. And it's very frustrating at times, but you have to really realize, okay, let me just trust the process, right? Let me just trust my journey, and let me make sure that every job I have, I'm passionate about, because I tell you guys this, there's people that call me, I don't know, like, hey, are you working? Hey, where you at right now? Because they heard from somebody else that, oh, she's good. And that's all it is. It's about, once you get that one opportunity, make sure you do it well enough so other people can put you on different projects.
For sure. Yeah. I think that's so, so important. The passion and just really being realistic about, I want this, and then showing up. You have to show up. Like, we have so many times where we'll get opportunities, and if we don't show up, it's not fair that we have to hold space for every other Black girl behind us, but that's just what it is. And until we get to a place where that's not the deal, we have to be mindful that what we do impacts the next set behind us. And so if I go in and I don't do a great job, then if Jordana comes in behind me, they're not going to give her the benefit of the doubt, because the last little brown girl screwed up. Or if I come in and I see that there's a need, and then someone that I've met that's dope, and I'm like, oh my God, Jordana, this is amazing. You would be so good here, girl. Da-da-da-da-da. As opposed to, because honestly, say what you want, white girls don't need us to refer them. Mm-hmm. Most of the time they got that. Mm-hmm. And it's not, and I will take a woman of any color over a white man, because they damn sure don't need us. But my preference is a Black, brown, or indigenous woman first, then a Black, brown, indigenous man, then a woman of any color. I'm done. Like, I don't.
There we go. Show up and show out.
You know what I mean? But we have to do it for each other, because ain't nobody gonna do it for us. If we don't hold space for one another and make sure we're holding space for ourselves and we're being authentic and we're being great, nobody's gonna care. We're hot right now, but Black has only been the new Black for like the last 3 to 5 years.
Exactly. And I think the other thing too, I noticed that at some shows, if there's like 2 Black girls or 3 Black girls, there's this like competitive vibe. And I just encourage that so much, because it's like we all we got, right? And I remember like when I started at the Daily Show, this Black woman just reached out to me on Instagram like, hey, I see you, sister. I heard you're part of the team. And that meant so much to me, right? And I feel like at other places I worked at, it's very like, well, no, I'm the only Black person. It's just like, no, we have to just do good together. PA, intern, whatever you want, I don't care. Because it's a very white space. And as you mentioned, some of the white colleagues, they don't need the referrals, right? They don't need to be put on because they already have the connections. So I think it's very important when you do see that other Black girl in the office, make sure you pull her to the side. If you see her kind of like messing up, make sure you say, hey, girl, this is how you do it. So we all look good. Because unfortunately, as people of color, we all get lumped in together, right? So it's if you are doing bad, you make it a little hard for me. So that's why I'm always about like trying to help somebody out and make sure that they're good, you know?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We just have to hold each other together, and like real women collab, not compete. And if there's someone that has what you want, utilize that as encouragement and inspiration versus an opportunity to feel envious. And like, listen, life is life, and we are humans we are spirits having a human experience, right? Sometimes you're gonna be jealous. I've been there of people that maybe you even know. Check that though. Check why you're jealous versus aspirational. Because sometimes it's because your insecurities feeling like you don't deserve what that woman has makes you mad that she has it, as opposed to, well, the creator is no respecter of persons, man or woman. So if she's got it, then I can get it. Because truly what's yours won't miss you, right? And if you don't get something, maybe that no was for a reason that you're not even aware of cosmically yet. I know it all sounds a little hokey to some people, but it's really the truth. Sometimes you don't get something because there's something positioning you even better, and that would have blocked that thing that was waiting for you.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
check that jealousy. I say it all the time, exchange your J's. Take your J and check that jealousy for joy. Because if you dance for the next sister's opportunity and progress, that is one step closer for your own. But it has to be authentic. So you have to train. I had to learn, you have to train yourself to check that envy, to check the petty, to check, like, the 13th grade is real in these shows, in these rooms, in these offices. It is like the 13th damn grade. And until you graduate and understand that that's not even worth it, you're going to stay in that place. And the last thing you ever want is to be really good at what you do, but women won't hire you because they know that you're a funky woman.
Yeah. And one last thing, my mentor once told me, nothing happens to you, it happens for you. So don't sit here and be like, oh, why me? Oh, why this? It's happening for you. And once you start looking at life like that, especially in TV where jobs come and go, you'll realize that just come from a place of abundance, and the jobs, as long as you're doing the networking, as long as you're passionate, will come for sure.
Oh, I love that. You know, oftentimes in these spaces, it's only one Black woman in a newsroom. And we're often getting the stereotypical roles within TV. Just talk to me on how essential it is building that network and being able to have a network of, other Black women so that you get these opportunities and you begin building those resources.
So wait, my nanny, so I'm Guyanese and Bajan, right? My nanny all the time. I should have known by Oni. A token does get you to ride on the bus, right? So sometimes we hate feeling tokenized, and it's not fun and it's not fair, but it is our reality in studio film and network television, streaming television, mainstream television. So if you are the only, don't badge that. That is not an honor. That is not something to want to hold on to, right? If you are the only, that means it is your job to set the stage so that they will be open to more. And, nobody's saying to take disrespect or to take dismissal or to, have somebody dilute your greatness, because that's not okay either. Sometimes you got to suck that up, because depending on where you are, it happens. And if you know who you are and you stand fast in that, you can kind of be annoyed by it. But by the time you come the next day and bring that great idea or break that new story or what have you, you've moved on, right? But do not wear the badge of honor of being the only or the other, Create opportunities so that other women that look like you, or other women, period, can walk in these doors. We cannot covet that. When we covet that, we really, really, really dilute the opportunity for it to be diversity and inclusion. Because a lot of times it's going to be a Black queer woman. She's checked 3 of those diversity boxes, and now they feel like they don't have to hire nobody else. And so it becomes diversity and illusion, not diversity and inclusion. We want to create the situation where we are doing our best and then opening and saving spaces for other women like us, other Black women, brown women, indigenous women, to come into the door and be able to have an opportunity. So I hear so many women that I'm the only Black. That's not okay in 2020 of the year of Beyonce. Like, that's not okay.
I think that just to compound what you said for sure is sharing Black stories even more so, right? With daytime, sometimes it does get a little whitewashed. And you have to make sure that, okay, this is a story that's happening and it's important and we need to share it, right? So I don't want to be the Black person that's pitching all the Black stories, but guess what? I'm going to pitch all the Black stories because they need to be told. And then, like, for instance, my husband, he works in news, and it's just like we both try to make sure that we're coming from a place of privilege, like we're employed in these spaces. So let's make sure we tell our white counterparts, hey, this is why this story matters. This is why we need to share it. And not only is it your responsibility to produce those shows, but I always try to have a moral compass too, because especially when I'm booking a guest, I've done it all. I've done the shows where you kind of feel crappy after, and I've done the shows where you feel good. And I always like the shows where I feel good more. Because I'm going to tell your story. I'm going to be truthful. I'm going to hold your hand the entire step of the process, because sometimes in media, they don't share the Black stories the way we want to, right? You don't really see that many dope Black. It looks like it looks like it, but I'm telling you, we need to do more. We need to do more with highlighting these great Black women, great Black men, great Black families. I don't really see, especially in daytime, I don't really see the portrayal of great Black families often, right? It's like, oh, wow. It's like, it's like, well, this is common, So I always try to not only put other Black women or Black men on, but when I'm in that room, I always make it a point to pitch the Black stories. And I always make it a point to check my counterparts and like, hey, that could be seen as offensive. You have to kind of speak up, because sometimes, and I don't think, it's all intentional. I don't think there are definitely
it's not.
There are definitely some microaggressions. We could talk about that at a different panel, but I think that sometimes it's like the lack of knowledge, right? So me being in that room, I think it's very important for me to speak up when something is wrong and when something's not being done enough. So I think those are so important.
Yeah, when we're in the room, it matters. It so matters when we're in the room. I remember working on a food competition show, and they were like trying to find somebody to host like battle corn dog or something. And good grief, they named every Black. I was like, he's vegan. That's not gonna work. Like, listen, we don't even eat that half the time. I'm gonna need you to not take the lowbrow things and just throw all the Black names. Like, come on, y'all. Like, and so when we're not in the room, it's not showing that way. When we're not in the room, it becomes really unfortunate because things slip by. And then we don't get the opportunity to really fix the stereotypes or make sure that no one is offended.
Yeah.
Got you. So ladies, what are some resources, if you can think of any organizations, anything like that people, especially women of color, need to join in order to, become a resource and be able to utilize these resources in the industry?
What we're on right now, Black Women in Media, right? I was just looking at the Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, I followed this page before, but now I'm just like realizing that all these dope women, it's just a matter of sliding in people's DMs. I'm telling you, when I was unemployed for about like 2-3 months or so, I definitely was on the couch crying. I definitely used to just go to the Starbucks and just slide in people's DMs on Instagram. And it's like, my goal was, okay, let me do about 16 a day, and I get 10 no's. And then I would do like maybe 6 might email me back, And all you really need is that one. I I know I have the work ethic. I know I have the drive. I just need to network more. I think before the mistake I did was just be very safe in my job and be very just like, okay, I'm here. This is it. But I wasn't networking enough. And it took me to leave that job to realize how important networking, especially in television, is, right? So I definitely think groups like Black Women in Media, there's a great Facebook group as well called Hue You Know. That's HUE. Yeah, right. So that.
Well, they're on LinkedIn and Staff Me Up too now. It's not just Facebook, because Facebook is Invite, I think, but they are on LinkedIn and Staff Me Up as well.
And then just for me, going on LinkedIn, right? So if you have a show that you're like, you know what, I would really like to work at that show. I really have great ideas. I would go on LinkedIn and type and figure out who works there and send those people messages. Now, they might, get back to you, they might not, but at least at that point, you can honestly say, hey, I tried. And if you could figure out their emails too, most of them have like a @Daily Show or, whatever email, or any kind of job, like ABC, for instance, and you kind of figure those emails out. There's nothing wrong with, and I always, when I was talking to this other woman, she was just like, I just want to know how to get in. I'm like, just ask for information, because to me, you need the information, you need that opportunity to meet people, and it's nothing wrong with kind of, because it looks like you're a little thirsty, right? I feel like in 2020, we don't like to look like, whatever. No. I always say, listen, humble yourself, ask that person for advice. And if they don't give that to you, don't worry about it. Go on to the next person, and say, hey, listen, I'm new to the game. Here's my resume. Can I have 10, 15 minutes of your time, especially right now in the age of post-COVID? Like, it's all virtual. I'm not asking you for lunch. I'm not asking you for dinner. I'm just asking you for 15 minutes on a Zoom. And you'll be surprised on if you get that connect, that person might say, you know what, let me go ahead and forward your email, because I've done that. And I forwarded people's emails off because it's like, you know what, I think she just needs an opportunity. I think she'll be great, and that's what it is. I'm telling you, like, I just can't stress information and just reaching out to people, because we as Black women, we have to do better with asking for help. I think sometimes as Black women, we just try to make it seem like we all got it, and sometimes we don't. So let me just lean on my sisters. Let me kind of go this way, to get ahead.
Yeah, I agree. I'm very big on organizations. They've helped me throughout. That's how I met the director of Oprah's Masterclass. I belong to New York Women in Film and TV. NYWIFT is a phenomenal organization. And right now, during the pandemic, they have waived the initiation fee. So you should definitely check out New York Women in Film and Television. Black Film Space is also a wonderful organization. They've now created an annual or a monthly membership fee situation. It's very, very inexpensive, especially in comparison to like what I pay for the unions. So there's also the Black Film and TV, the Black TV and Film Collective. I am a leader in that organization as well. They are right now, if there are any producers watching who are narrative producers, they are having a fellowship program. We're taking applications till December 1st. So Black TV and Film Collective, you can reach out to them. And all of these organizations do webinars, they do classes, they do panels like this. Of course, Black Women in Media is another great resource. So there are tons of organizations out there. And then if you are the talent part of it, I know I'm a member of SAG-AFTRA, I'm a member of Actors Equity. As a producer, I'm actually pending right now for the Producers Guild. So there's so many, I'm very big on the unions as well. I love Producers Guild. For our producers out there, the Producers Guild is awesome because it's a non-exclusive guild. You're not limited to only doing PGA work as a producer. But when you do work in the PGA work, you make much more. And you have a lot of backup in terms of making sure that things are official and legit for you. So, and then mentorship. I'm very big on mentors too. But if you're gonna get a mentor, know how to be a mentee. Every mentee is not a good mentee. Make sure that there's always an offer with your ask. You can't just always, as a mentor, it's not my job to give you the answers. It's my job to point you in the direction of where they are. I do not spoon feed my mentees, but I will have your back and fight for you to the last breath if I know that you are worth it. But you, as a mentee, you want to make sure that you are coming and offering something, whether it is your time, especially if your mentor is like a little older. Usually social's not their thing. So that's the best. I tell my young people that are trying to be mentees that are looking for mentors, ask them how they doing on social media. Half the time they're not. So those are the first services that you can offer: social media, any kind of web something, because most of the time we suck at it. So anybody willing to help with that, we listen, what you need. So it's really, really making sure that you are, again, making yourself invaluable, making yourself available to receive and to give. You have something to offer, even if you are seeking an opportunity right now. There is a skill set or an energy or a recharge that your spirit gives the next person. So you have things to offer. So know that and trust in that and be confident in what you have to offer as well. And, you know, I agree with everything Georgiana said. I stay sliding in DMs, LinkedIn's, all that good stuff. But be mindful to never do it from a space of entitlement. Nobody has to do anything for you. Nobody owes you anything. And we are infiltrating ourselves into a system that was never built for us to excel. So it's always going to be difficult and it's always going to be challenging, even when we are in charge. It is always going to be something, right? So never offer yourself with a spirit of entitlement as if someone has to give you something. They don't have to give you anything. Set yourself up so that they want to bless you with things and opportunities. Because if you come in Jordana's email, no matter how much she sends emails off, you can have the best resume she's ever seen. If you act like she's supposed to do it, I guarantee you it's going to hit the trash quicker than you think. So be mindful to be respectful and to be, you know, deferential to the people that you don't have to kiss butt. You don't have to please don't come in my email gassing me up or trying to you don't have to do all that either. But just be kind and be courteous and be curt. I mean, not curt, concise. Be concise. Please don't send me your 5,000 paragraph email either. I can't. I don't have time. Nobody has time.
Just like a little blurb, a little something, that's it.
Little blurb, throw a bio in there, maybe I might read that, or a credit list or something quick, or send me the link to something. Even though links are weird, because I'm not always going to be wanting to click around on things either. Like if you send me an email, I just want to see what you're talking about. I don't want to have to click 10 different places to get there. So just be really, really thoughtful and mindful of the other person's time. We are busy. She is making shows every day. I can't even fathom your workload, sis. And I do 18 things. So be mindful of people's time and you'll get what you need to get. But just don't tell yourself no, and don't take anyone else's no as a failure or something about you that is less than. It just isn't your moment. That's all.
Yeah, just two last things I want to say. I think in this space, right, I was looking at the panels and media is so huge, right? But I think television, it's this weird microcosm where it makes you doubt yourself a lot. You know, that I will say this, I know publicity is different, talent booking is different, but television, working in television and film has a lot of room where you could be like, okay, maybe I'm not good enough. And I think it's so important that you push through that doubt. That's my other piece of advice, because you're going to be told no so many times. I'm telling you, that's just what happens. But you just have to keep pushing, and then make sure that when you do get into that space, you stay true to yourself, because there is a lot of, and I've been a victim of this, where you try to be something that you're not, and it ends up coming across cheap and it's not worth it. So I think when you stay true to yourself, that's when I succeeded the most. When I just say, hey, listen, this is what you get. A Haitian girl from Brooklyn, what's up? You know, and it got me to where I am now. So I just think that's really important. And make sure that you are a hard worker. I will say this over and over, your name is all you have. So people just put me onto different projects. People reach out to me because they know I'm gonna work hard. So when you were in that room, stay true to yourself and put the work in. Nobody wants somebody lazy.
Ciao.
Yes, for sure. Tell us how can we connect with you? Everyone who's tuned in and watching, how can they connect with you via its email or a website or anything, social media handles, anything like that?
Yeah, so my social media handle is Jordana. That's Jordan with an extra A, Jordana _ Hemingway, like the author, 1M. That's for everything: Facebook, Instagram. I'm done with tweet me, but and then my email is just jordana.hemingway@gmail. And you guys can reach out there, and I will definitely. I'm not gonna leave you on red. I promise.
What about you, Okima?
So mine is my name for everything. On social, like all the socials, it's Okema T Moore. So OKEMA, T like Tom, M like Mary, OORE. So that's Okema T Moore for at Okema T Moore on all the things. And then I would say you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I do read those messages. You can connect with me on where else? Oh, and then email is info@morethanenough.com. So it's more my last name than THAN. Enough is spelled super black, ENUFF. Morethanenough.com. And that's also my website, which I am looking for someone to help me do better with, because I haven't touched it in months. I'm not good. That's not my ministry. So if there's anybody out there looking for a mentor that knows how to do web stuff, let's talk.
See, I got some opportunities, some leads right there during the conference. There we go.
And I pay. I don't ask people to do stuff for smiles and hugs. I do pay. It's a pandemic, so I'm not like, it's not like big money, but I pay an opportunity in cash. I do combos.
There we go. There we go. 2-for-1 specials. We love it. All right. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining us today. We really appreciate all the knowledge, the stories, everything. Such an inspiration just hearing. So I'm sure everyone else has been inspired maybe to get their start in this industry. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Oni. You were amazing. Thank you, Jordana. I'm going to connect with you, sis.
Thank you.